Hello, first of all, have you ever thought of a serial killer or someone who's just cruel or crooked in any particular way and thought, hey, what went wrong for you to grow like that? Well, there's actually a possible answer. Hello, my name is Cennet, and we'll be looking into developmental psychology. You're probably confused thinking, developmental psychology? What's that? Developmental psychology is the study of childhood and early life, and how this can affect the individual all the way into adulthood. This can range from cases of spoiled children to children who haven't had their necessities met at all. Everything in a child's life greatly impacts their development. Now, imagine a scenario, just picture in your head as I'm speaking it. Imagine a man named Bruno, who's often disliked by his peers and those around him because he's loud, obnoxious, and often indulges himself in the party life. Now, imagine you were a stranger who didn't know Bruno and just saw him for his present life. What would you think of him? You'd most likely think very, very negatively of him. You'd probably think he's annoying, bratty, spoiled, dumb, and maybe even childish. And that's just from what I've told you right now. But the thing is that you don't know him. Now, imagine him, but as I talk about this. Imagine a little boy. The little boy is Bruno. Bruno had a single mother while his father left the country as soon as he was born. That meant his mother had to work all day, every day, just to provide for her family, which, unfortunately, sacrificed quality time with her son, Bruno. Now, even if Bruno had games, toys, or any kind of entertainment that may have been bought by his mother, he may have never truly felt as if he had true love and affection from her. Now, I'd like to say this before I move on. Bruno is only one example of one group of people who've had this childhood. Everyone has different mindsets, different experiences, and therefore different outcomes in life. Like, let's say, Carol has a better way of coping with her childhood and understands that her future, her present, shouldn't just be based on what she went through as a child, that her aspirations, her hobbies, and everything about her shouldn't just be based on what she went through as a child, and that she should strive towards the future to be better. Now, I'll tell you the story of Carol, who's had 3 kids in her life. It's absolutely wonderful. Carol and her husband Chad are what you'd call perfect parents with a perfect family. They've taught their children how to be prim, proper, and responsible, and most crucially, have made sure to teach their children about the world and how dangerous it can be. Alongside that, but they spend lots of time with their children, sometimes even over-involving themselves in their children's lives. Sure, this seems to be lovely, parents being good parents. Soon enough, however, one of Carol's daughters becomes an introvert with social anxiety. She doesn't like going outside much due to her fear of meeting people she doesn't know. She's scared of going through something terrible or traumatic because she was always raised and nurtured not to trust anybody but her family. Sometimes, as it seems, overprotective parenting can be detrimental to someone's life. Now, moving on to the most important part of developmental psychology. People with childhoods like Bruno and Carol's children often grow society deems as undesirable traits, like how Bruno's loud and obnoxious. But most crucially of all is that they could also develop mental disorders. An example would be how some schizophrenics develop schizophrenia from a traumatizing experience, most notably a traumatizing experience in their childhood. This could be abuse, whether it be physical, mental, domestic, or any kind of abuse witnessed or experienced directly. The same thing can be said for some PTSD patients who develop PTSD from a traumatizing experience in their childhood for the same direct means. In the sense of personality traits, some people exposed to more violence and aggression in their childhood may grow to become more aggressive and violent themselves. An example would be Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy, according to many sources, was raised by his grandparents instead of his biological parents, and he often witnessed his grandfather beating his grandmother. This may have contributed to his mindset and how he did his crimes from witnessing all of that abuse. Another interesting thing is that if a child goes through a harmful school experience, like maybe a mean teacher, or maybe even bullying, that child will be more likely to be less focused on their studies, and in some cases may also become violent. As I said, bullying can be a major part in that role. Now, overall, parents can't be perfect. We know that, but what we do know is that there's a line between being strict and just being plain evil. So many parenting tips, trends, and techniques often seem to be a lifesaver at first, but they can actually be more harmful than good to a child's development. With all of that out of the way, Science and research is still being improved upon, and there is so much more to come. I'm not a godsend or an Einstein bringing new or groundbreaking information and ideas to the table. What I am is quite literally a teenager who got given an amazing opportunity to share what I know and believe to be true, to share what I find interesting, finally. All I want to know is that you at least learn something from this, because something has to change to ensure that children will grow comfortably. And finally, if you ever meet a Carol, a Bruno, or anybody as a matter of fact, don't judge who they are on their cover, because you don't know them or how they grew.